All right. Welcome to the webinar. We're just getting started here. I see a few people already starting to pop on. We are at the top of the hour. I was going to say, I think we started 2 minutes early, but no, it is the top of the hour. So, Andre,
Exactly
good to,
time.
yeah, it's go time here. So, Andre, it's good to see you. I'm looking forward to
Good to see you
this.
too.
Yes.
Absolutely. Really excited. Uh, Definitely, we have a very good topic to discuss today. Many times I heard lots of different people, clients asking questions about those, essentially how to avoid any of the pitfalls. So decided to prepare something that would be helpful. I hope it will be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we've gone through this this deck and obviously want to deliver an engaging, informative presentation for all of you that just showed up here. So I think you are going to enjoy this, though. I've been through it a few times with Andre now. And just to kickstart things off, because I know we're just getting started and there'll be more people that'll come on here right now. But my name's Trevor Turnbull, so I'm going to be hosting. Andre will be doing 99% of the presenting. And I will be behind the scenes, though, still being able to monitor the chat and any kind of questions that come in. So by all means, on the Zoom platform, you will see the chat button somewhere on your screen. Just go ahead and type in there. And actually, let's start with that right now. Just let us know that you can see us, you can hear us, you can see that first slide on the screen. Let's make sure that all the technical stuff is good to go. So just give me a yes or a yep or something in the chat there. And then now we'll know that you're there, you can see us, you can hear us, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we got some more people coming here as well. So like I say, we're just getting started here. You haven't missed anything yet. Type in that chat, let me know that you can hear us. And by all means, throughout the presentation, if you have questions, you have comments, whatever it might be, also feel free to type into there. Because like I say, I'll be keeping an eye on it. Andre will probably be more focused on delivering a presentation for all of you, but I'll make sure to loop in all those things as we go.
Yeah, but definitely, if there is anything, any comments or anything, absolutely for it to stop, interrupt, and discuss what is actually interesting for the people online. So do not hesitate. Just throw in, and Trevor will interrupt me.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just a quick introduction. I know, Andre, you'll probably introduce yourself in more depth, but Andre is the CEO of Glorium Technologies. And actually, if you want to just flip to the next slide there, Andre, we'll just get started, and I'll tell everybody just a little bit about the company, just so you understand and have some context as to what we're going to go through here today, and just a little bit of the history around Glorium, and then we'll get into the good stuff here. So Glorium provides health tech startups with strategy, technical expertise that they need to build the vision of their software applications, their web applications for less. And they've been in business for over 11 years now. That just got updated, obviously. The slides used to say 10, I think, a couple of days ago, but it has been 11 years now. 150 plus developers, UX, UI designers, business analysts. They've got a really deep team. They work with over 70 different frameworks and technologies, produced over 60 productions just in the last year alone. And they were on the Inc. 5000 list in 2020. And I was just asking Andre, when's that coming out again? And I guess it's August for 2021. But
hopefully we'll be there too for 2021.
There you go. And then, of course, ISO 9001 certified, ISO 13485 as well, which is specific to the healthcare side of things as well. From what I understand, anyways, obviously, you know a lot more about this.
Yep, it's for the medical devices.
Yes.
Quality standard.
Excellent. Yeah, so there's core expertise here specifically in that healthcare space. And Andre, yeah, I'll let you get into it here. Obviously, we want to make sure that everybody gets a ton of value here, and Andre's got a great presentation for you. So Andre, I'll let you take it over here.
Okay, yep. Really, hope for that. Hope for delivering the value. That's why I'm here, and that's the main reason. We just don't want to accumulate the knowledge. I really want to share it with everyone. So that's why we started this series of webinars. And of course, Trevor, thank you very much for all the good introduction. All good. All right. So I think I will just dive in and talk about some of the issues, mistakes, probably also do's and don'ts that you should or shouldn't do when implementing your software development products in the healthcare area. So healthcare is a little bit different from everything else. We understand all of that, and the big difference comes from the very high level of regulations, of course, from the very high level of importance of all of the applications, and very minimal margin for the mistakes that you can do. So, and also there are a lot of specifics due to, of course, as I said, about the regulations and all the different flows and rules that you have to follow. So I have compiled actually 6 of those items over here, and we'll try to briefly go through them during this webinar. And the first and the foremost that I want to start with is the common thing that we have been observing with majority of the clients that we work with is actually underestimating the importance of the domain knowledge. What usually happens is that whoever runs the startup or some middle-sized business, people from the product size, they come from the industry with a great industry experience usually, and that's why they come there and they want to build the product, and they make an assumption that because they worked in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years, they understand it very well. So, and they make an assumption that it's simple, that it's easy, and they think that, all right, so let me build a team of developers, I'll tell them what to do, and they'll just do it, and I'm going to have a great product. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that most of the time. So, and so usually what happens is that you invite developers, but developers have their own understanding. They have been doing the development. You have been doing you have been treating patients or working in whatever other area of the healthcare service. And you may be thinking that this is simple. Developers may be thinking completely different thing because they don't understand the flow and what needs to be done. Because of that, very often we see that aggressive plans are being built. And then what also happens, you start explaining the nuances of what needs to be done, what needs to be built by the developers. They don't understand you from the first time. And it's actually, it's a natural feature of the human brain. Nobody gets it from the first time. Because of that, there is usually a tension and stress being created because you need to repeat same things over and over. And sometimes developers even start thinking, well, am I dumb or what? And they actually get like really stressed and you get angry. And so that's the thing that actually that must be avoided. And of course, because of that, developers understand things as they understand, and you need to run multiple iterations of the software in order to get to where you want it to be. Because of that, of course, you also get the additional budget burn. So for each of the examples, I also have some of the cases that we saw, just to give an example what has happened. And I don't know, for those of our clients who recognize themselves over here, well, I'm sorry, but I couldn't resist, putting those cases in here. It's beneficial for everyone to learn on mistakes. So we had actually one of the clients who outsourced their development to a vendor, and this is basically a workflow tool in order to improve the efficiency of the imaging studies. And it started pretty much quite casually, but then no specific process was established to educate or bring the development team up to speed. And the requirements were fed with really small portions without full understanding of the end goal. And what happened, this outsourcing happened to other vendor, not to us. We overtook it a bit later. So, but after more than a year, the product was still not usable and wasn't solving the problems that was meant to solve. And the solution, what is more important here, what happened is that the solution was over-engineered. Developers didn't really understand what needs to be done to improve the efficiency of the workflow, how it should be optimized, and they developed a generic flow, generic solution, generic optimizer that solved 25 other things, by the way, so that development effort was wasted, and not all of those things that had to be solved for the specific imaging studies. They didn't take into account all the hospital needs, how they work with the professionals in order to interpret the studies, what parameters are taken into account in order to optimize this flow. And at the end, of course, we had to jump in when we overtook the development and correct tons of those different mistakes that have been done, and get the development and get the product into the area and the shape where it had to be. So if we talk about the preventive measures, what can you do in order to avoid this? It's simple, like all of those solutions are, very simple, but people just tend to completely forget about or not to follow, or just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't do it. But simple thing, educate the team, whether it's internal education, whether it's external, but make sure there is a continuous learning involved in the development team. You give them the information, give them articles to read, give them some questionnaires after that in order to make sure that they understood something from this process. If there are any external courses, that's also great. Another thing is, when you provide the requirements, do the grooming session according to the agile process. Don't skip it. High-level requirements usually not enough. You're running into the risk of developers understanding those requirements according to their understanding, according to the world where they live. So your requirement, what you meant, is getting transformed into a completely different thing. So make sure you groom well those environments. And of course, correct your mindset. Whatever I just told, just accept it. The developers naturally don't know this entire healthcare domain and flow and nuances of the, I don't know, communication between the doctors and patients and compliance issues and all of that stuff. So
that's a big one, right? Like, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, we're here to tell people about these challenges with the software development, but then there's this whole human element of like people and domain knowledge, and it's so critical, isn't it? Like, you've seen it many, many times, even in the clients that you've worked with, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So mindset is always, the core of all the problems and all the solutions.
For everything in life, it seems, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is definitely so this point about the domain knowledge, I don't know, I just couldn't resist. In my view, it is so important that I actually have 2 points over here in my presentation about the domain knowledge. So as a result of the first item, I put here as a second item, product owner. You must have a product owner in your team, but it's not, many people say, well, yeah, we do have a product owner, or we have, product professional, that's fine. Make sure the point here is not that you have the product owner, but that this product owner correctly acts and works as a product owner, as this role. So if you don't have the product owner who takes care of this proper transfer of the domain knowledge, I'm just putting some of the threads over here. Definitely you will miss something in your application if you don't have somebody overseeing the entire functionality, and you probably some of the people faced with those issues. You have a big feature that will affect, I don't know, 20 different places inside your application. Without a thorough thinking, you will only implement 5 or 10 maybe, and you will forget about the rest. So make sure there is somebody who is thinking about your product as a big one whole. Okay, so definitely you can run into the problems of non-compliance with laws and regulations with all of the consequences that I don't want to talk about, but that's one of the threats. You have to have somebody who thinks about it as well. Maybe this product owner will need to consult even the lawyer about those things, but this is something not to forget. That's also one of the responsibilities. And of course, this is a direct implication on the development team. Not proper actions from the product owner will inevitably have you wasting time on some of the development activities. So, and that goes back to what I was talking about the domain knowledge. So they will be doing what they think is the right thing to do, whereas they need to be doing what the product owner thinks is the right thing to do, in terms of product, of course, not in terms of technical things. And of course, preventive measures, just have a product owner, have this role. So that's very simple as a number one. But number two, again, people will say, yeah, we have a product owner, everything great. But then usually my question next, all right, and how much time does your product owner actually devote to the development team? Usually those product owners, from what I saw in majority of the cases, they think about the product, they know the product, but the majority of the time they spend with the clients. They figure out the new requirements, they understand them, they are on support, on working with your best clients, spending time over there, and just devoting a part of their time thinking about what is happening on the back. So product owner in agile development is somebody who works almost completely and full-time with the development team. So rethink this, the other way around. Product owner is not to work with the client. Of course, he or she will have to do this in order to understand the product well, but the product owner's first responsibility is the development team, okay? And of course, the process has to be properly followed by the product owner. So agile and all of the PM PM books, they talk very much deeply about all of this, what you have to be doing, how the stories have to be written, requirements provided, how the grooming process has to be done. Just ensure you have this this process and it's properly followed. Okay. So okay, let me talk. So next point that I want to talk about actually is the integrations. The integrations actually is a very is a big is a beast that you have to properly tame. But this point by itself, the integration by itself, has the how to say, it probably could be run as an absolutely separate topic or have its own series of webinars. But very briefly, I want to go here about that you need to just properly plan it. I will not talk much about it, but definitely usually, because the thing that usually happens when we work with and when we see clients attacking the integration, majority of them, especially not the biggest startups, they think about it as purely as a technical issue, and they throw the integration completely into the developer's hands. And okay, just integrate with this, EHR or with this device. Go ahead. And usually a disaster happens after that, because developer, again, not always prepared to do all of the analysis and all of the nuances of the integration, because the actual thing that we have figured out is that there is usually much more analysis in the integration projects than the development. And usually the ratio, sometimes the ratio is 80-20 or 90-10. So just need to be careful about how to properly approach it. But definitely, if you don't properly approach the integration tasks, and allocating proper people to those tasks, you definitely will face an extra time for the integration projects. Of course, you will burn more of the budget, because you will have to do and redo things again. And at the end, higher rate of potential mistakes, unstable results, inability to go into production, satisfy your client's needs, and all of those things. Okay, one of the cases that I want to talk about here, give an example, probably something quite typical, I would say. So we work with a company that is providing the software for the sleep studies. And they had to integrate with a specialized hardware. So there are headsets in which you kind of sleep, and those headsets they record multiple all different readings, and they needed to get those readings into the application. And of course, the task was also thrown into the developer. Just go ahead. This is a headset. Go and integrate. And so the developer took a look at the specification. Oh, very nice. So the specification of the manufacturer has provided those are the data. All right, fine. And this is the application. Okay, so these are our data. Those fields look similar. I think they're the same. All right, so he did this the mapping by himself, and the flow also was done the way how he understood this flow needed to be done. And at the end, the integration, the result was completely wasn't usable. The data was all over the place. The flow wasn't followed. And at the end, it wasn't even after everything was done according to the specification. So they had to run actually many times back and forth between the developer, the manufacturer of the device, and then of course, the product owner, to figure out what's the proper data mapping, how and what sequence the operations must have been done. So this additional time has been spent. And then after this integration has been done, and then they started thinking, right, there is this headset, but let me see what other clients are using. All right, and then they figured out, oh, there are many other headsets that need to be integrated, and they have all the different flows. All right, so they had to go back again and redo all of those and kind of re-implement, almost completely throw out this implementation, re-implement the integration framework that would be generic enough in order to handle all of those multiple manufacturers. And all of this, the variety of the data and variety of the hardware. So that was quite a waste at the end.
Hey,
Okay.
Andre, I'm just going to jump in real quick on that because we had a question come in here too. What could they have done beforehand, before they got to that point of realizing all these potential mistakes? I know you guys have a process.
How should it have been done?
How should it have been done? I know you have like a product and technical mapping process, right? Maybe just elaborate on that a little bit.
No, it's basically, I don't know, everyone who is listening, who is looking, it's probably very clear. There is no rocket science here, and just think about this task first. Don't put it off like as a secondary thing. If the product owner sat and spent, I don't know, maybe some of the I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 days looking at specifically at the data and thinking about the future needs, where they are actually heading with this product. Product owner should have been able to discover pretty much all of the requirements. That all right, there is a variety of the headsets out there, there are a variety of the manufacturers, and the variety of the data. So, and then the product owner would have worked properly on the specification and laying out this, the data mapping, the flow mapping, and providing the requirements about the manufacturers with whom it should have been implemented. And at the end, the developer would have received quite clear information on what needed to be done, and the development effort would have been much less than in this case, because there wouldn't be this re-implementation many times. So should be quite simple. And what I wanted to mention here, simple preventive measures, so select proper tools, definitely, before approaching this the integration tasks. Think about who you're integrating with. If you're integrating with hospitals, with all the major EHRs, there are already pre-built. Even there are companies who do this integration for you. So that's what I'm putting here. Consider outsourcing, or consider using some of the tools that are readily available on the market. in order to do this integration and do the analysis. Make sure that analysis spend at least some of the time on the analysis. Do not just throw it as an integration task into the developer. Spend it a bit of some of the time on the product owner side. And again, as I mentioned, majority of those integration projects, especially if you're doing it with a hospital, you'll probably spend 6 months talking to them about all of the security issues and the proper flows and getting access and how it should be done and mapping the data. And then at the end, the development work could be maybe a month, maybe 2 weeks, sometimes depending on what kind of tools you're using. So follow the proper analysis and mapping process first. Okay, so I think this is we're done about the integration. So let's move on to the security. Again, this is the point. Same as about the integration. It probably deserves its own series of webinars, not just one point. But since we're doing a quick run over here, I have it just as one of the items. But we also observed quite a lot of time that no matter how the entire world is raising the awareness and necessity of the security, but especially newcomers into the healthcare, into the health tech, tend to postpone it until the very last minute, not really thinking clearly about how it should be done, and thinking about it as as some of the lower level tasks that just had to be completed just before we go into production, just somewhere then later, and then we'll figure it out. So that's usually how it happens, but not necessarily it works all the time. So, because the biggest threats and the biggest problems into which you can run if you don't follow the proper routine on embedding the security into your healthcare application, and so everyone knows about it. It's of course you're then become vulnerable to the intrusions and all of sorts of different hacks. You're risking to disclose because of that the PHI. So because of that, the personal health information, and because of that, you can expect to have the regulatory fines and loss of trust from the clients, loss of business at the end, and you'll need to spend extra budget later on to recover from those losses, to get back on the track with the sales, and also to recover from the hacker attacks, or from data loss, or when they're stolen, because that's pretty much those threats are very well known, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a big one, obviously, in the news now, right? It's one of those things where it's kind of like an insurance policy. You don't think about it until you need it. And I just Googled right now cybersecurity attacks, and everybody knows about the pipeline in the US, the meat plants. I was telling you about a company out on the East Coast of the US. Like, it's just becoming commonplace now, and companies are not prepared for this, right, with their applications.
Yeah, yep. So that's if those biggest companies, as we heard recently on the news, if they all those ransomware attacks, if they had to pay millions to the hackers, with actually tons of their budgets actually are going into the security. So it's a damn important thing to implement and to remember in your application. But as an example over here, I don't want to talk about the case when something has been stolen, because it kind of to me, I don't know, it's kind of cliche to me. So I want to give a different example. different example when the security is not really well thought through from the architectural standpoint and from the even technical standpoint. So we had a client specialized in the mental health software that needed, of course, obviously to store the patient health information. And this client was attracted by a pitch from another startup. They offered the, and you probably saw it all over. There are many companies who offer you the storage, the HIPAA compliant storage for your PHI. It's a kind of, you replace the your database with their storage, and you don't have to comply with HIPAA if all of the data are there. So they fell for this pitch for the pitch, and it's probably was the right thing to do, but not and they contracted with them. But the problem is because of that, the full architecture at the time of getting the contract done and then feeding it to us as a done deal, as a technical requirement, the full architecture hasn't been thought through and it hasn't been planned. Well, all right, there is a storage over there. We'll keep it there. But the problem here that the application needed to run somewhere that we implemented for them, this for our client, and of course it was running in the cloud. So we hosted this application in the cloud, and there were a ton of different tasks that this application had to do, including storing some of the PHI locally on S3 on Amazon, some of the files that contained PHI, and there were logs with PHI that had to be stored also there, and there were also a couple of other things within the infrastructure. So what it means, if we already had within our cloud infrastructure the PHI, we had to build on our end, on our side, we had to build the entire protected HIPAA compliant infrastructure according to all of the guidelines. And it was built, so we had to ensure everything was encrypted at rest, at motion, and there is the firewalls and all of the proper all of the proper security and monitoring guidelines that to be followed. And at the end, what we had our own HIPAA compliant infrastructure, fully built, fully done, completely taken care of, maintained, and we had a completely separate a database sort of, which is actually which is having this, which is storing all of the application data. So it's a kind of, we could just put the database inside our infrastructure and encrypt it, and that's it, and we would be done, because the rest of the work has been done, and it was fine. So obviously over here, as you see, because of not very well thought through how it will gonna end up at the end, so there was a waste of time, of the development time, the waste of the money, obviously, and at the end, the infrastructure that wasn't performant enough, because there is, of course, definitely latency, because we had to go for the information on somewhere outside of our server network, and it was costly as well. So definitely something that could have been prevented if you just spent a little bit of time beforehand. Okay. So what is it that is needed to be done in order to prevent all of this? As I mentioned already, just do some of the analysis. And again, don't get me wrong, some of the startups or some of the even bigger companies would say that, well, yeah, we understand about the security, we're completely fine with it. We went through some of the audits and we're good. We're not spending tons of time on this, as you're currently saying. Yes, I completely agree with you. Do not spend tons of time, and but do the preventive kind of do the analysis first. Don't put it off until the very last minute. So whenever you're planning the development of the application, have it somewhere in the back of your mind. Just think about it. Don't just say that, yeah, we'll think about it later. Okay. So, and have the clear picture related to security, infrastructure, and architecture. Just make sure you have it there and everyone knows about it. How to properly, how your data is protected and how to maintain it. And if you don't feel that you are qualified for all of that, get the consulting. So at the end, it may cost you much less than dealing with those security issues later on. And the timing, as I mentioned, of course, is essential. Don't make it the last thing to do. Rather move it to the first thing and spend just a little bit of the time to think about it. And then you can finalize later, but just make plans first in the beginning. Okay. So another thing here is, and you probably, as I'm flipping the slides and getting point to point, I'm sure people are recognizing some of the pains in the healthcare. But yes, this is the truth. User experience and user interface sometimes are not really given the proper attention. Same thing as the security, as I mentioned before. And people tend to create the applications, again, just throwing the requirements at the front-end developers and just expecting that something will come out from there, something usable. Yes, and usable things come out, even functional things, but in majority of the applications, as we saw, there is not enough accent on the UI, and the look and feel sometimes is horrible. And even it's one of the things also to remember that if you're targeting the patients, then in majority of the cases, your audience is going to be mostly elderly, right? Because they are using most of the services, and this population is a kind of, they are already not very well versed with the latest technologies and the smartphones and the interface. And if you don't think specifically about providing them with a proper interface and user experience, it may be just a disaster. Or we even saw the cases when the interface was provided for the not blind people, but vision impaired people with not in proper contrast. So the people actually, some of the people for which the application was targeted, they weren't even able to see the text on the button. So there are cases even like that. So
this is
just trying to.
Yeah, this is something that I had never even thought of either. I know we talked before about the importance of UX and UI, but those examples I think really hammered home for people. And ultimately, I was just Googling here while you were talking too about like the size of the healthcare industry. Like this is a business as well, right? Like people have choices and their experience from all facets of dealing with a healthcare provider will influence their decisions on what they do, right? It's the number I'm looking at here is like $185 billion industry growing to $662 billion in the next 5 years. Like those numbers are staggering.
Yeah, the numbers are definitely stunning. Probably what you're trying to say is that if you take it to everyone who is creating the product, take it as a business. So maybe you're completely fine right now, and maybe you're able to sell your stuff to the doctors or to the patients just because you don't have much of the competition, but the competitors will come, and they're coming very fast. The investment, the VC funding actually of the healthcare startups, take a look at the Crunchbase, it's booming. It's on the all-time high. So tons of new healthcare applications are expected to hit the market very soon. So I think that's enough of the about the importance on the threats. As I mentioned, if you don't think, if you don't take it, very importantly, the UX and UI design and the development, you are risking to have the low adoption of your software product, health tech product with the target audience, and of course you will see lower sales and lower market share. So it's actually with tons of different, with other industries, especially those that are targeted to the consumers. It is the user interface, the user experience sometimes is the cornerstone and sometimes the biggest winning factor why the application gets adopted. And it definitely, we're not at that point yet in the healthcare, but we will inevitably be there. So keep it in mind. And of course, sorry, another thing on the UX, UI, if you don't properly think about it and your user interface is complicated, you are kind of, you can increase the load on your support. So more of the complaints, more of the questions, and of course, higher support cost can result because of not properly done UI. And the case that I want to bring over here is one, for the hospital. One of the clients we had, they have a process management application and it's targeted to the big hospitals and the health systems. It was actually implemented. They saw the gap, they saw the need. It was very implemented in a really big rush. No design was done whatsoever. The implementation was thrown directly into the front-end developers to produce the results very quickly. And so it's, I'm not sure if it was a mistake, 100%, but the point is this: they were able to sell it to several hospitals, and they were selling the value, the functional value, and the hospitals adopted. But right after the clients, the users started using the application, they saw how complicated and how unappealing the interface was. And they started, like, literally, they started complaining just because it was so horrible, and they really needed, in order to onboard the new users, they had to go through the onboarding process to teach how they have to use the interface of the application. I think for the 2020, it's unacceptable. We're all talking about the intuitive interface, and this is the expectation of each and every user right now, like really intuitive interface. But that's like, even the simple tasks were difficult to complete. And at the end, right now, the company, the client, they started the project to completely revamp the user interface. So whatever was done shortly after is literally being thrown away, and the entire re-implementation of the front end is happening. Definitely a waste of time, waste of money, development efforts, reputation. Don't forget about it, very important. So all of those costs are definitely here. Okay, so on the things how usually, and we recommend how to tackle this problem and what you can do in order to prevent this from happening is definitely pay attention to the product design. Same things as I mentioned about many other things before. Just devote a little bit time to it. Just don't completely throw it in the hands of the developer. So have PO, product owner, or other business analyst think about it, and have a designer, at least at somewhat capacity, but have a designer, UI and UX designer, who would work on your product, and make sure that the product owner or the business analyst, whoever is there in your team, they work together with the designer. Designer themselves, they know how to design, they know how to produce the appealing icons and the buttons and all of that stuff, but they need a big input from the product owner in order to understand how exactly the user is going to be using the application. So they need this big input in order to produce the design that will not only be visually appealing, but also useful and will allow the users to complete their tasks with ease. Of course, when you build the application, if it is meant to run on different devices, you probably everyone heard, mobile first for some of the applications. Don't forget about the variety of the different devices. If you're doing the design, do separately. Because also the mistake that we saw many times, all right, we'll create a browser version and we'll just have this browser version run on the mobile, and they say to the developer, just adopt it for the mobile. That's it. And yeah, developer adopts it for the mobile. Yes, it is adopted, but completely useless. So you pretty much from the, not necessarily from the beginning, but at some point of time, you have to go almost through the same process of designing the user interface and experience on each separate device, on the tablet and on the smartphone. Okay, and definitely, if you don't feel you are good to tackle this problem, get a consultant's help or outsource some of the work in order to produce a good user interface or the front end design, or maybe front end altogether. Okay, and the last, but absolutely not the least point that I want to mention over here is, again, since we are in the healthcare, which is very risky and very important area, one of the things, and that's 99% of the startups, I can tell you, risk management process is not implemented there. Absolutely. For larger businesses, for some of the mid-sized businesses, like probably 50-50, I would say, at least from what I saw. Don't quote me on this. This is just my personal observation. But the problem is when you're creating the product, especially from scratch, or you are significantly extending the product and building the software. Software by definition, building the software by definition is a very risky process. There is a very high rate of the failures. Actually, we have some numbers. I don't exactly, no, I won't be, I'm putting some numbers over here, but in general, it's a very risky process. You're doing the software the very first time. Every software that you're building the first time. That's the difference. And when you're doing something the first time, you are at a very high rate of failure. There will be many things that will go wrong. You need to foresee those different things. You need to know what you will be facing with, or at least think about it and put it down on the paper. Usually when it is not done properly, and you can recognize some of your, I don't know, your company or maybe the companies of your friends that you know, when you don't do it, basically, how to say, absence of the risk management puts you on the reactive path. So you don't foresee the problems and fix them before they appear. You are constantly reacting to the problems. And when you're reacting to the problems, you start getting driven by the external factors that affect your company or your development process. And when you're reactive, when you're reacting to the problems, they don't happen on your schedule. They happen on their schedule, however and whenever they want. Because of that, you usually see a hectic environment. Oh, I don't know, this happened. Oh, we just got this requirement and I don't know, we had to deliver it in 2 months, or I don't know, in 2 weeks. How we didn't think about it? Yeah, they cannot follow this. Our clients cannot follow this flow. That's definitely a bad thing. Oh, we cannot have this, handle this load on our infrastructure. What happened? Additional users, got registered or something like this. So you definitely are creating a hectic environment when you're constantly putting down the fires. The problems happen, you react to them. The problems happen, you react to them. In terms of the, because it is healthcare we're talking about, there are the consequences may result if you don't properly follow all the rules and regulations. So you may be facing the regulatory fines or some other punitive measures. So don't forget about it. That's also something that can happen. And of course, all of those factors, they affect your growth. You will not grow that fast. And just as examples, I don't have a very specific example over here, how somebody overlooked, what happened with the risk management. I'd rather put down my observations, what usually happens. And it's a little bit of a repetition what I just saw, but it is very common when the companies have a very aggressive growth. They grow fast and they don't and they think about what hits them at this very moment without significant outlook into the future. So there is no forward thinking and analysis. And the things that usually happen when the problems usually arise and when they hit them is on different infrastructure issues related to capacity. And it just happens one day or over a short period of time. Oh, our infrastructure cannot handle this, and emergency project to increase the capacity of the infrastructure. Same thing about the security issues. Well, all right, we overlooked, this specific requirement. Again, emergency project or some threat has been has happened. The hacker attack or loss of data, intentional, unintentional. We all know this happens. And there are tons of cases when unintentionally different companies publicly expose their information. Just remember this case with Amazon S3 service, when those bucket links, majority of the people were putting them as public. It's not Amazon's fault. It's the company's fault who were hosting their information on S3, but Amazon had to jump proactively and make everything kind of private by default. So anyways, another thing that happens is the overloaded support at some point of time and necessity to count the clients. And put down the fires with the client base just because they figured out some critical bug or some critical issue or absence of the flow. Another thing what I also saw quite often, we have this new big client that we're onboarding. It's good, everything is good up until the last moment, and even signing the contract, onboarding the client, and oops, and the client has this apparently some need. Maybe it's a security related need, maybe infrastructure related, maybe flow related, just because they're so big and so different from other clients that you have to implement something or have to make a change. Just because you didn't think proactively, you're running now the emergency project just for this specific client. Okay, and probably another thing is that many releases happen as a disaster. So again, it may not be definitely related to the risk management process, but if it is applied to the software, if you don't properly run it, its releases become actually a headache and a big problem. So usually, we are ISO 9001 certified and also 13485, and those are quality related standards, and every quality management standard or quality management process assumes that you have a risk management embedded. So we usually do we do risk management for ourselves, of course. But for the clients, when they come, we do offer some of those services on the project, and sometimes clients take it, sometimes they don't. But definitely, if you just you have to think about it, and you have to run at least part of it. So preventive measures, again, as I was mentioning before, just do this. So you need to perform the initial analysis. You needed to, according to the risk management process, you need to identify the threats. You need to figure out the mitigation process, how and what you're going to be doing in case of this threat, post or pre. So have this done. It doesn't usually take this much time. Just thinking forward and putting it down on the paper. But as you put it down on the paper and have it there, at least for it to be in the back of your mind, the normal risk management process assumes that you will review and renew your risk management and risk analysis document. I don't know, do it at least every quarter. Don't spend much time on it, but think about it at least once a quarter. Devote several hours. If you're not a big company. If you're a bigger company, of course, you will need to establish a certain process, and you need to have a series of meetings in order to approve the risk management document. But what's the most important is that embed the findings that you have in your risk management document into your everyday processes and everyday actions. So if you have decided something during your risk management review, make sure that it is part of what you're doing on an everyday basis, and renew it and update it as you as you go. All right. So I think, yeah, that's
the irony here, Andre, is that everything that you've presented on is essentially a part of the risk management process, isn't it? People that are here are already starting to see what they need to be aware of and make sure that
actually, yeah, I just presented you with 6 threads. You can start from there and and update it. That's actually true.
And that was, of course, yeah, very intentional in the sense that, what we were hoping to deliver in this presentation would be insightful, allow you to see things, think about things differently. There's definitely a lot of high level theories about all of these different things as to the importance of each one of them. And I see a number of people still here. If you have any questions, comments with regards to what we've talked about here so far, just feel free to chime in there. We'll keep going here for another 5 to 10 minutes or so. And Andre, you want to maybe, while people are getting a chance to kind of chime in on what's coming up for them, talk about Glorium's experience in working with different clients in the healthcare tech space and producing these digital products. I know you guys have done a lot of work in a number of projects across all different types of spectrums. Do you want to maybe speak to a few of those as well, and just what the experience has been like?
I don't think, so not necessarily about all of the, specifically about the experience, but I will do, a very brief pitch. I don't know, I'll use the time if I'm given. Let me share again. I have a slide over here. Yeah. So as you mentioned, definitely we have quite an experience in working with different clients in the healthcare space, from small startups to large manufacturers and hospitals. So that's basically, and over the course of 11 years, we have learned quite many things related to health tech. But what I definitely want to say here is that, and the brief pitch that I want to run is, it is usually very difficult to jump into the outsourcing and start trusting somebody on the side to help you with development of your product, especially if you're in such a regulated and specific industry as a healthcare. So what we have done actually, in order to help facilitate, the nice kind of nice process of getting into the relationship slowly but surely, and helping you build the product, and it usually works very well with startups and smaller companies as well as mid-sized businesses. But usually people are looking for outsourcing when they have a significant expansion of their existing product. So, and usually what we do, we follow this 5-step development acceleration framework, as we call it. As we start speaking and getting through the first several meetings with the clients, we usually go with doing the analysis of the current development team structure and process. So we ask a few questions and we understand what is it happening on your end, how the team is actually built, what roles are there, what kind of software you already have, technical tech stack, infrastructure, and the business requirements that are there already done. Then we move slowly into the product mapping step. This is where we are discussing what actually needs to be done. What is the end goal where you guys want to be? And we develop a roadmap. Basically knowing that, for example, I don't know, mid of next year or end of next year, I need to have this kind of software implemented with those requirements. So we figure out those requirements and we draw a roadmap that is actually acceptable for the clients. And then we go into the technical mapping. This is where together with the clients, we do the design and estimate and pretty much produce a proposal. What it will take us to get it from here and to there, and then we slowly get into into working together and adjusting the process and the teams, because you need to slowly add people and slowly build the teams in order to start working together in a natural fashion. And once we figured out the process, once we exchange the feedback, we understand what works between those two teams, what is the proper structure. Then we embark on the road of the scale up as needed and on the road of continuous improvement and optimization within the boundaries of the build of the team that has been built. Okay. And usually, everything begins with the call and initial call, and I do welcome you to go on our website on this link, gloriumtech.com/book-call, and just schedule a call. Let's have a chat. Let's see what you currently have and if we could be of any help. Okay.
There we go. Unmute myself. I
Yes.
just put that link inside the chat there for anybody, just so you don't have to type this into your browser. You can just go ahead and click that link if you want to have a chat. And Andre, thank you so much for this. This was insightful in many different ways, and there was people commenting in throughout the presentation on
Absolutely
different areas that were resonating with them, right? There's always something different for every person. Either they've experienced it themselves or you enlighten them to something that they hadn't thought of before. So anybody that would like to have a chat with a experienced software development company, I do encourage you to go to that link, have a conversation, have a discussion around the project, the product that you're looking to develop, or maybe it's already even in development. I know, Andre, a lot of times you work with clients where they bring a product to the table and they say, here's where we are right now, and it's not working, right? So it's not always just the ideas and starting from the start. You get a mix, don't you?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So it's not necessarily one or another. We get into the outsourcing work and helping our our clients on all stages. It could be in the very beginning, could be on the road to expansion, or it could be on the maintenance stage, which is absolutely fine as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it all starts with the development acceleration call. So that link that I put in there, that's the first step if you want to just have a conversation, explore possibilities of just figuring out exactly how to make your project go as smooth as possible. I encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that call. So Andre, thanks so much again for the presentation. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I think we're good. I hope it was helpful. Really hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
there was some people chiming in, and of course, if you're watching this on the replay, I'll just say out loud, because of course we record all of these. Feel free to reach out as well. We will also be taking pieces of all of this and we'll be creating content for it, all in the goal of educating and just helping people create better products. So thanks again, Andre.
Yep. Thank you, Trevor. Bye-bye.